former General Secretary of UN, has rightly said, migration is an expression of the human aspiration for dignity, safety, and a better future. It is a part of the social fabric, part of our very makeup as a human family. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Analytics Insight podcast, where we talk about the ever-evolving tech space, and I'm your host, Priya Dialani. Now, migration is one of the key challenges of our time. It is a phenomenon of rising across the world. An estimated 272 million people, over 3% of the world population, are living outside their home country, according to a recent UN report. Now, while some have moved voluntarily, others have been forced to leave. Now, well-managed migration is a positive force of change, definitely. It is not just a vehicle for fulfilling person aspiration, but a critical tool also for balancing labor supply and demand, fostering more innovation, creativity, and many migrant workers are also entrepreneurs and are transferring and spreading skills as well. But what role does technology play here? So today we have Samuel Joy, founder and CEO of Huntr, who will give more insights into it. Hi Samuel, how are you doing?
Hi Priya, I'm good, thanks. It's a pleasure to be on this podcast.
Likewise, great. It's a pleasure to have you with us, Samuel. So, I think this is something a very interesting topic that we're going to discuss today, and we will of course dive deeper into it. But let's kickstart by letting our listeners know what exactly is Huntr, what role does it play in the migration with respect to technology, its specialization. If you can tell our listeners about it.
Sure, Priya. So just a brief introduction to Huntr. Huntr, which is a Techstars portfolio company. We are an enterprise manpower solution that combines blue-collar worker marketplace, a SaaS platform, and an analytics platform to optimize supply chains for enterprise, typically with 2,000 employees and to over 100,000 plus blue-collar worker employees. And so our platform connects employers, candidates, service providers such as training organizations, recruitment agencies, governments, to ensure that there is a seamless flow of manpower.
Great, quite interesting. Probably never come across something that blue collar workers and in terms of how they can leverage technology and data analytics and how you can give them a much better workforce development and practices. And I think you also bring extensive years of technology employment and government coordination expertise to build trust and transparency in the overall hiring system. So if you could tell us more about yourself, your journey till date, your role and contribution towards the company.
Sure. So my journey started with working for the Emirates Group. And so if the world knows Emirates as Emirates Airline, and that's one of the companies of Emirates Group, but they also have everything surrounding the airline ecosystem. So that means catering, they have tourism, they also have manpower. So it started with the aviation industries providing airport loaders, admin staff, securities, cleaners for the airport. And then it grew into a very large manpower company, outsourcing supply company for some of the largest projects in the Middle East. So it is one of the largest manpower companies in the Middle East. It's called Transguard, and it's a part of Emirates Group. And so I had the pleasure of working over there, and that's where I got an insight on how the migrant blue collar workers were being hired. And since then, so I led large digital transformation projects for the Emirates Group, and specifically in the area of blue collar workers. And so I had this idea of how the recruitment industry can be transformed, especially for high volume blue collar worker hiring and migrant worker hiring from all across Asia and Africa into the Middle East. And so since then, I went on to create this product called Huntr. And through the process, because of our platform, we got recognized by the World Bank. And I've been an advisor to the Solutions for Youth Employment for the World Bank. And I've also spoken at numerous United Nations event as well, and been a part of accelerators such as Techstars. And so this is an industry which I'm very passionate about because job opportunities at the end of the day transform people's lives and transform society and bring about a generational blessing to people all across. And so this is what really drives me.
Great, glad to know about it, and it's impressive to understand and know about your contributions and your role at World Bank. Now, moving ahead, I think we have been talking about migration, and while labor migration can definitely deliver many positive outcomes, the recruitment, placement, and employment of migrant workers in all regions of the world has become notorious for human rights abuses and difficulty in upholding basic labor standards. Now, of course, we have been facing a lot of challenges, but that's when I think digital technologies come into picture because they can broadly improve core processes associated with migration and bring about transformational changes, probably in document processing, remittances, even recruitment, to name a few. So we want to understand from you how has technology, transformed the recruitment process, unlike the traditional methods that you always used.
Sure. So when we look at just our technology alone, and I'll probably talk about our technology here, which is, we started off as a marketplace technology, and that's where basically the need was in. And a marketplace technology can seamlessly match the demand and supply globally. So typically, demand and supply is matched with enterprises, and then you have supply, which is the workforce. Now, when it comes to high volume blue collar worker hiring, individual workers cannot look into like applying for jobs by themselves and manage the entire process by themselves, because the nature of how they're being recruited is batch volume hiring. And so there needs to be somebody in the middle who manages that process for the enterprises, so that timelines can be met, operational requirements can be met. And so that's how these recruitment agencies were born. These legacy hiring players were born in the system, and they're typically generational family businesses which has been there for generations. And they've been doing manpower supply specifically in manual ways, and it's not been completely disrupted yet. And so a marketplace technology can seamlessly match a demand and supply globally. So it's not restricted to physical boundaries or personal connections or referrals, but you can aggregate demand and you can aggregate supply. You're not restricted by physical institutions or by recruitment agencies, but you can achieve scale through technology. So that's the advantage of marketplace technology. And so when we started off as a marketplace technology, we were able to scale on both the demand side and on the supply side, working across different countries, unlike recruitment agencies, which can only work across limited countries or geographical boundaries. And then the natural progression was a SaaS platform, because again, if it's a recruitment agency, they tend to share documents through WhatsApps, and through there's not a great system in place in terms of sharing all these documentation. And so onboarding typically takes a lot of time as a result. So what a SaaS platform does is it helps in systemizing the process in onboarding, and so it gives an unfair advantage when it comes to speed, efficiency, and transparency in the system. And so when you have access to data as a result of a SaaS platform and a marketplace platform, you can basically structure that data, which can then help in simulation, which can help in forecasting, resource allocation. And those are very, very important for manpower heavy business like Amazon, for example. And from a candidate perspective, you're also creating a safe pathway or a channel for legitimate jobs, which means that, it reduces human trafficking, because most of the human trafficking are happening through jobs. And it also reduces exploitations, because it reduces the number of brokers who are in the process, as well as it promotes transparency about the job and the benefits. So it's beneficial to the both the enterprise as well as the candidate.
Great. Yeah, definitely. I think you said it very rightly that when we have like a marketplace technology platform in place, how it can help in aggregating demand and supply and without any interference or disruption, which possibly the recruitment agencies can do. And of course, it helps in increasing the efficiency and transparency within the system, which is very much needed when we're talking about the migrating workforce. Now, I would just like to mention that even I come from a very small city, and my friends and my peers have been all shifted to, migrated to large metro cities or probably out of India for their personal aspirations and trying to find and grow their careers. But while, we're talking about the migration, there are low-wage migrant workers also who migrate, but they kind of encounter a lot of challenges, specifically with the abuses of the labor rights during the migration process. And a platform like Hunt, I think, along with that, and more digital initiatives have been developed to inform and empower these migrant workers in many new ways. But on the core, I would still like to understand, why do you think that workers are migrating? And I think lately a lot of migration has been happening from India to UAE. So I want to understand, why is this happening and what role is Hunter playing here?
Sure. So there are a couple of reasons. I'll probably highlight three of them, which would be the economic opportunities. And so the UAE offers higher wages and a lot of opportunities compared to Asian and African countries. And so many of the workforce migrate to UAE seeking to improve basically their economic status and also to provide a better support for their families back home. And so, because especially in the Middle East, there's a lot of infrastructure investments which are going on. And that's still ongoing, with especially with the manufacturing sector. Mentioned this, where global political situations such as the Western countries and other countries moving away from China, and as a result UAE and other countries investing a lot of money into their countries for creating manufacturing jobs, has created a lot of opportunities for skilled labor. So, and if you look at Saudi Arabia, there's a $1 trillion investment which has gone into projects like Neom and Trojena and quite a lot of projects. And so as a result, the growing economies, especially in the Middle East, have created demand for skilled jobs in construction, in hospitality, and healthcare. And so a lot of the Indian workers who are actually highly skilled in these workforce are demanded due to the skills, their work ethic, and their willingness to take on these roles. And then the other point which I would probably add is the cultural and community ties. And so with India has especially been migrating to the UAE and to the Middle East for a fairly long time. And so the presence of a large expatriate community in UAE makes it easier, especially for new migrants to settle in, and they can integrate very well. And they can find the support and familiarity within like these communities. So I would say there are a couple of other factors as well, but I would highlight these three as the main points to which workforce is migrating, especially from India to the UAE.
True, I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head. And yes, infrastructure investment and more economic opportunities are all primary reasons why we are seeing a lot of migration. And I think with that, we are also seeing a lot of migration technology solutions are coming into picture to address the migrant workers' needs in a more innovative way. And one is like Hunter that you mentioned. So we want to know, what if you could share some case studies or success metric around Hunter's impact on a client's business efficiency, if you can tell us more about it.
Sure. So some of the advantages for large enterprises, and when it comes to for the candidates, on back to your previous questions, we help in terms of like the transparency in the process. We help in terms of fair recruitment practices. We enhance candidate in their preparation. So that means that our service providers on the supply side, they do pre-orientation and departure and training so that there's a proper briefing of the job. There's transparency about their benefits. All of those are done on a candidate perspective. Now, on the enterprise perspective, like case studies which you had mentioned, I would probably take a leading company, a leading e-commerce company in the UAE. So they face significant delays in the recruitment process. It usually takes 2 to 3 months to onboard new employees, which are blue collar workers, because they are hiring in large volume, and obviously they are migrating from another country, and so there's quite a lot of steps in that process. And so this was affecting their operational efficiency and their deadlines. And so what we implemented is the marketplace technology along with the SaaS platform especially. And so as a result, we reduced that 2 to 3 months to about 30 days. And that is through aggregating vendors all across. And the more vendors you have that advantage. And then secondly is the SaaS platform, and you have a systems and processes in place. In terms of onboarding, you can get documentation done pretty much quickly. And then when you have data about your pipeline and you have an insight into what that pipeline looks like, obviously you can make informed decisions as a result. So that's one case study which I would mention. The second case study which I would mention is the diversification of workforce, which is very important to the enterprises here. Typically, there are certain countries which are always known for where the workforce are always migrating, but the companies are always looking for other countries and people from other countries. They always have a plan in terms of sourcing people from different countries to ensure they hit their diversification goals. And so, as a result of aggregating service providers globally, the clients are able to source people from all across the globe through the marketplace platform again. So, I would use that as an example again for as a second case study. And then the third case study would be in terms of lower attrition. So, like a hospitality company, for example, in the UAE, had been facing very high attrition working through manual systems and recruitment agencies because there's no proper clarity in terms of the job, or there's no proper training which is provided to the person before they leave. And because we have a set processes in place, and we have a technology platform which enables those processes, we and especially pre-orientation, departure training, and a transparency in terms of the job which is being provided, the benefits which are being provided, you find lower attrition rates as a result. So I would highlight these three as some of the case studies which we have with our clients.
Great. Thank you for sharing those, Samuel. And I think you mentioned all important case studies or aspects that are actually very crucial in today's workforce development and management, and not just restricted to the migrating workforce. Especially diversification inclusion are some of the crucial aspects that probably a lot of enterprises and organizations tend to ignore them. And again, a lower attrition has been a significant challenge for a lot of these organizations. Now, moving ahead, I think when we're talking about digitization, so of course we're talking about data and analytics, but digital interventions that are migrant-centered in the approach and development can promote fair recruitment and sustainable development in a variety of ways. But however, these same digital technologies can create new challenges, which can probably lead to misleading and further exploiting prospective migrant workers in some cases. And one important challenge that most of them are facing is data security and privacy. So we want to understand, how do you ensure data security and protection at Hunter?
You're spot on. When it comes to data analytics, as it becomes more and more powerful, and especially with AI, there will be a heightened focus on ethical data use and compliance with data protection regulations. And so, for us, we are the leading platform when it comes to the high volume blue collar recruitment space, and especially on the data analytics space. And so we have deployed some features in terms of data security, which is one is data encryption, which is an in-transit encryption, address encryption as well. We have done access controls, so the role-based access controls, multi-factor authentication. We have done data anonymization and masking as well. We do regular security audits and penetration testing to ensure the hackings are not possible through our platform. And we have data backup and recovery, so regular backups is done, and then a disaster recovery plan is also implemented if in case there is a breach or a system failure. We do have training and awareness both within our own team as well as the clients as well. And then we have a secure software development life cycle process which we follow. And so probably these are some of the ways in which we ensure that the data are protected and are compliant with the data regulation laws.
Very well, said Samuel, and thank you for letting us know different ways and practices that you have been adopting at Hunter to ensure data privacy and security. But on the flip side, I think when we're talking about technology or digital platforms or SaaS platforms, I think while it's a platform and we assume it as a tool, but it's not exactly like a full-fledged solution. Now, technology can definitely bring a lot of positive outcomes and address the challenges that we are facing in terms of the migrating workforce or mobility skills. It can also add complexity and new risks if we don't plan it properly or strategically integrate with our existing workflows. So, we want to understand from you, are there any certain challenges that you face currently in terms of how the world is evolving at a rapid pace? So, I think not each day is the same. And how do you intend to overcome those challenges?
Yeah, good question. You mentioned in that strategically integrate with existing workflows. So I'll probably touch on that first, which is, most of the clients use platforms such as SAP or Oracle. And our platform actually does not replace those systems, but there is a general assumption that, we're competing against SAP or Oracle or we're trying to replace, but it's not the case. We platform is specifically meant for high volume recruitment, and it's very focused in that, and there's a lot of features which are and workflows which are designed for specifically for that functionality. And so we integrate with SAP Oracle, we integrate with the existing workflows, and we're not trying to replace any existing tools out there. And so that was one of the challenges. So the way we address that challenge is education. So we do conduct events. We have a yearly event which we do. Apart from that, we do have workshops and training sessions as well. There is clear communication because we've identified that. So there's a clear communication and mentioning how and what Huntr is, and a concise documentation and support materials also on it. And we do have case studies and testimonials as well from our existing clients. So that's the way in terms of tackling this particular challenge. And I would say probably another challenge which we have, obviously on the marketplace, you have a demand and supply, and it has its nuances. So a marketplace should balance the growth of both demand and supply. And so that does require a strategy or a plan in place. So the way we look at it is we add focus. So we allocate or dedicate teams to focus on demand, and then we dedicate resource for supply, so that not everybody is focusing on both and then everyone's scrambling together. And so this particular approach of focus on a demand and focus on the supply really helps, and it helps in ensuring that both sides of the marketplace grow in tandem. And there's a systematic approach also, like where we create a feedback loop within both the teams, so that we continuously monitor and adjust the strategy based on actual data. And as a result, we are able to create like a playbook that outlines what are the best practices. Some of these marketplace dynamics are already out there. Andrew Chen's book, for example, is a really good book for understanding marketplace dynamics. But every marketplace has its own unique dynamics. So that I believe like a systematic way of approaching and also creating a feedback loop and learning and implementing is really important. And so that's the way in which we tackle that problem. And I would probably also mention the third problem, which is competing with legacy players. So typically the incumbents are like the legacy players, which are the recruitment agencies. And so we face competition with recruitment agencies who have like long-standing relationships and influence the manpower industries. So these incumbents sometimes resort to threats and government pressure to maintain their position. But the way we solve that is by focusing on solving the real problems that they actually fail to address. So by showing the clients or the candidates tangible results, so Huntr can actually attract the clients and the candidates as a result. And building those relationships also is important because you have a demand side, you have the service provider side, and just building those strong relationship, the trust and the transparency, I would say, is really important as well. And then also the security measures, and in terms of both, we are guardians of both sides, for the demand and the supply. So we have to protect both sides. And when there is a trust in the relationship, naturally both sides rely on us, and that's the way we solve that particular challenge. So I would probably highlight again these three as some of the challenges which we faced, and also the way in which we are solving them.
Right. I was actually about to ask you that, how do you tend to differentiate or or show your prospective customers that what is the value addition that you're bringing with your solution. Because I understand that organization enterprises have this long-term relationships with these legacy recruitment players, like you mentioned. So it becomes kind of really difficult to kind of sell yourself and help them understand that this is exactly what you're doing, and it's way different from the recruitment agencies out there. But I guess you pretty much answered it, and that was like one of the challenges that probably you were facing. So I think, yeah, that's fair enough that way. So moving ahead, like we discussed about the pros and cons and challenges, risks associated with these solutions. So one last question for you, Samuel. What that would be? What do you think would be the future of data analytics and the migrated workforce management? What do you predict some trends that might come into picture in the coming next years?
Sure. So data analytics and migrated workforce management, it's going to get even more sophisticated. This is a particular industry which is not going to go away, especially the blue collar migrant workforce industry. And obviously analytics is even more bigger now because of AI. And so predictive analytics will become increasingly sophisticated. Organizations will be able to forecast labor market trends, identify skill gaps, anticipate workforce with like much greater accuracy than how they are currently doing. So which leads to improved planning. So companies can better plan their recruitment drives if it's in person, or do their training programs based on these predicted demand. Then there's a proactive management as a result. Companies which have been reactive in nature can suddenly become proactive because they have all these tools which empowers them to be proactive. So they can fill the skill shortage, or they can tackle workforce attrition. And then obviously the use of AI and machine learning in workforce is something which I would definitely focus on, which is it can enable more efficient candidate screening, matching, onboarding. And automation of repetitive tasks will also help in terms of streamlining the recruitment process, reducing the time to hire and also the cost. AI can also really help in terms of personalized recommendations for candidates, and really help in terms of retention as well. Real time data analytics is another trend which I also see, which is becoming a standard. So, providing instant insights into the workforce metrics and quickly being able to make decisions is going to be the case. And so that will create agility, which means that companies can respond swiftly to like changing labor market conditions and any internal workforce dynamics as well. I've been talking about transparency quite a bit. And here in this case, also, it promotes transparency and trust between both the employers and the employees and the government who's sending the people. So overall, there is a satisfaction with all the players who are involved in the process. And also, data analytics can be used to monitor employee performance and their well-being, especially the ones who face like unique challenges. So then that can be addressed. Companies can also design like well-being programs to support them, whether it's like mental or physical health of the workforce. The optimization of their performance also really helps when you have analytics, especially, which boost productivity and morale. And the other piece which I would focus on is a global talent pool, because the trend is now towards global talent pool. So global talent pools will continue to grow, and it's going to be supported even more by advanced data analytics and communication technologies. So that will again impact on a diverse workforce. So where companies can tap into more diverse and geographically diverse talent pool. So these are probably the areas which I would say which I'm seeing right now.
Yeah, great. And I think fostering migrant workers' integration and ability to enhance their working conditions with technology is a very multi-sectoral and a multi-dimensional approach. And I think Hunter is playing a very important role here. And it has a potential to enable all recruitment-related aspects and actors to undertake its core functions at each stage of the migration and in a very new and improved ways. And I think to varying degrees, all these digital technologies, all mobile technologies can supplement, grow, and innovate already existing services and recruitment processing, but also expand their reach, coordination, and integration as well. Well, thank you so much, Samuel. It was a pleasure having you with us on a podcast today. I think we have discussed some interesting facts around migration and how technology can help the entire migration process and the recruitment more seamless, transparent, and efficient.
Thanks, Priya. It was a pleasure to be here.
Great. Thank you so much, Samuel. So, this is for our listeners. Stay tuned for our upcoming podcast, and you can view and listen all our previous podcasts on Spotify and other leading platforms. Thank you so much.